I'm trying to do something different each time. I'm not just, like, copying and pasting the same exact situations, unlike Stephanie Meyer. I noticed that this girl... Oh, I noticed that his eyes were black. Coal black. I thought I noticed this girl was black. I was like, damn, racism already! Mr. Banner signed my slip and handed me a book with no nonsense about introductions. I could tell we were going to get along. Of course, he had no choice but to send me to the one open seat in the middle of the room. I kept my eyes down as I went to sit by him. I love the italicization. It's fantastic. It adds such needless drama to this. Bewildered by the antagonistic stare he'd given me. He wants a staring contest! Even I know this! I'm horrible with relationships and introductions, and even I can tell when someone says a staring contest. I didn't look up as I set my book on the table and took my seat, but I saw his posture change from the corner of my eyes. He was leaning away from me, sitting on the extreme edge of his chair and averting his face like he smelled something bad. Bella, you might want to get some sanitary pads. Just a suggestion, just a suggestion. Inconspicuously, I sniffed my hair. The book is making the jokes for itself. I'm not even going to comment on that one. I'll leave it to your imagination. It smelled like strawberries, the scent of my favorite shape. Ladies, it is always good to scrub down there, let me tell you that much. It seemed an innocent enough odor. I let my hair fall over my right shoulder, making a dark curtain between us, and I tried to pay attention to the teacher. How thick is your hair that you can make a curtain with it? Unfortunately, the lecture was on cellular anatomy, something I'd already studied. I took notes carefully anyway, always looking down. I couldn't stop myself from peeking occasionally through the screen of my hair at the strange boy next to me. Please, girls, if any of you are watching, let me know. If you have hair, can you actually do that? Like, make a curtain without just looking like a complete asshole and holding it out in front of you? Like, again, knowing how socially awkward and just terrible of a person Bella is, I can imagine her, taking notes with one hand, holding her hair out with the other, but, please let me know, because I'm genuinely curious now. I have kind of short hair, so, I really can't even test it on myself, still being a guy, it wouldn't even make sense in that respect. During the whole class, he never relaxed his stiff position on the edge of the chair, sitting as far from me as possible. I think someone's trying to hide something. I could see his hand on his left leg was clenched into a fist. Wow. Again, every time I make a joke, a sexual joke at least, the book just has to go one step further and explain it for me. Tendons standing out under his pale skin. That is disgusting sounding. This too, he never relaxed. He had the long sleeves of his white shirt pushed up to his elbows, and his forearm was surprisingly hard and muscular beneath his light skin. He wasn't nearly as slight as he looked next to his burly brother. That makes no sense, because, unless you change shirts and just somehow showing it off better now, you wouldn't notice that, but whatever. The class seemed to drag on longer than the others. Was it because the day was finally coming to a close, or because I was waiting for the tight fist to loosen? So she's just staring at his fist. Loosen, goddammit, loosen! It never did. He continued to sit so still it looked like he wasn't breathing. What was wrong with him? Was this normal behavior? I questioned my... Was this normal behavior? Yes, sitting on the edge of your chair with a clenched fist. Yes, that's what I do during biology class. Actually, I stand corrected. That is probably what I would do with biology class. The second that bell rings, I'm getting the fuck out of there. I questioned my judgment on Jessica's bitterness at lunch today. Maybe she was not as resentful as I thought. I questioned my judgment on Jessica. Okay, that makes sense. I was gonna crack a joke, but that makes sense. Of course, this just means Jessica, the next most unlikable character so far, Bella is starting to create an affection for. So that just makes Bella even more unlikable, because you take the unlikableness of Jessica and pile that onto Bella's just terrible personality. Oh well. It couldn't have anything to do with me. He didn't know me from Eve. God fucking damn it. You do not need to keep putting in the most unsubtle analogies ever. And they're not even analogies. I apologize. References. I know there's an A word for it. At least I think it's an A word. It's 10:30, 10:40 right now, so it's kind of late, so my brain's getting fried. But, really, the bite, the apple, on the cover, talking about the apple, now saying from Eve, yes, I get it, you're supposed to be the paradigm of innocence, even though you're a horrible bitch. Add one more to the counter. I peeked at him one more time and regretted it. He was glaring at me again, his black eyes full of revulsion. I like Edward. I legitimately like Edward. I can really relate to him. Just by looking at her, he can tell what a terrible person she is. As I flinched away from him, shrinking against my chair, the phrase, "if looks could kill," italicized, like, not in quotes like you would expect, or anything else, no, italicized, suddenly ran through my mind. That makes no sense, but okay. At the moment, the bell rang loudly, making me jump, and Edward Cullen was out of his seat. Fluidly he rose. He was much taller than I thought. His back to me, and he was out the door before anyone else was out of their seat. I sat frozen in my seat, staring blankly after him. He was so mean! So mean! So rude! God. This is like the worst descriptions possible. It wasn't fair. What's not fair? That you're a complete bitch and he noticed? I began gathering up my things slowly, trying to block the anger that filled me, for fear my eyes would tear up. For some reason, my temper was hardwired to my tear ducts. I usually cried when I was angry, a humiliating tendency. It's actually kind of fair, because you're kind of a bitch. "Aren't you Isabella Swan?" a male voice asked. I looked up to see a cute, baby-faced boy, his pale blonde hair carefully gelled into orderly spikes, smiling at me in a friendly way. He obviously didn't think I smelled bad. Oh, God. Never mind. Going on. "Bella," I corrected him with a smile. "I'm Mike." "Hi, Mike." This is the dialogue, people. "Bella," I corrected him with a smile. Line. "I'm Mike." Line. "Hi, Mike." Line. "Do you need any help finding your next class?" Line. "I'm headed to the gym, actually. I think I can find it." Line. No one talks like this. You don't go, Hi, how are you? I'm good. That's good. Like, you actually, converse. I understand Bella's socially awkward, but everyone else doesn't have to be as socially awkward, too. You would do something more along the lines of, "Hey, how's it going? How was X, Y, and Z? Oh, X, Y, and Z was good. How was A, B, C?" Like, you try to actually ask the person other questions, and you add in jokes and inflections and personality. These people have none of it. Conversation is a wonderful way to characterize people, and none of that has happened. All I know is Jessica judged someone on her infertility and the fact that one of the sons denied her on going on a date or something like that. Or just didn't even want to ask her on a date. It would be equally, terrible, I bet. And now this character, Mike, just seems like a friendly guy. And there was some other guy who was friendly. So far, all I've noticed is all the girls, except for Bella's mom, are bitches. And all the guys are kind of young, innocent, maybe a little doofusy, but, overall kind of good chaps overall. So, I don't know if this is kind of like an anti-feminist thing or whatnot, but I can totally see why people say this set the feminist movement back like 20 years. And again, we're on page 25, not even the full chapter. That's my next class too. He seemed thrilled, though it wasn't that big of a coincidence since school this small. Another guy who seems absolutely head over heels for her. Fanfic! It is so fanfic! We walked to class together. He was a chatterer. He supplied most of the conversation, which made it easy for me. He had lived in California till he was 10, so he knew how I felt about the sun. Okay. I really like the sun. It's too bad it's not here anymore. It turned out he was in my English class also. He was the nicest person I'd met today. You met so many nice people who were totally accepting about you. You're just blowing them all off. You're being a bitch to them, and then you're like, oh, he was so nice. Like, bipolar much? But as we were entering the gym, he asked, "So, did you stab Edward Cullen with a pencil or what? I've never seen him act like that." I wouldn't be surprised if she did that. She's not a very nice person. I cringed, so I wasn't the only one who had noticed, and apparently that wasn't Edward Cullen's usual behavior. I decided to play dumb. "Why, was that the boy I sat next to in biology?" I asked, artlessly. Artlessly? Yes, because conversing is clearly your art. I could understand if you said, like, awkwardly or, tried to lie or something like that, trying to cover it up. Artlessly just makes no sense. You're trying to add in class, significance, drama, characterization where it doesn't fit. I was actually just about to say, this is actually seeming like a fairly okay scene so far. It's terrible still, but it's much better than, "Hi, how are you? I am good." This is just so boring. And yet, finally, we're getting into a scene where they're talking about other characters, and talking about them in such a way that I'll actually remember them, that Edward is acting different since Bella came up, but let's press on. "Was that the boy I sat next to, blah, blah, blah?" "Yes," he said. He looked like he was in pain or something." He probably had cramps. "I don't know," I responded. "I never spoke to him. He's a weird guy." Mike lingered by me instead of heading into the dressing room. If I were lucky enough to sit by you, I would have talked to you. Mike is totally a stalker. Or a total creeper. Or just does not know how to flirt with women. Albeit, I don't know much better, but I don't think I'd be like, I'd really like to sit next to you. Especially to someone I just met. Save that for, like, a joke, you know, or, like, a flirty joke. Someone, like, who you clearly see, you know, is reciprocating the affection. I smiled at him before walking through the girls' locker room door. He was friendly and clearly admiring. I think it was like the third or fourth time she said he was friendly. So we really now can associate Mike with just friendly. Very detailed character here. But it wasn't enough to ease my irritation. At what? At Edward noticing you're a bitch? Again, that's all I can figure out. The gym teacher, Coach Clapp, found me a uniform but didn't make me dress down for today's class. Yes, stand in front of the gym and dress down. No, but if we have to introduce you, that's what's bad. At home, only 2 years of PE were required. Here, PE was mandatory for all 4 years. Force was literally my personal hell on earth. Because at your school, you have to have a PE class. Priorities, woman! Priorities! Get them straight! I watched 4 volleyball games running simultaneously. Remembering how many injuries I had sustained and inflicted playing volleyball, I felt faintly nauseated. 2 things. 1. How do you injure another person playing volleyball? I can understand getting injured yourself. You know, if you slide the wrong way or dive the wrong way or get hit in the face, you know, whatever. You either are good, so you hit another person, or you're bad and you messed up. There's no in between. And also, why would you feel nauseated? Did you have some horrific tragedy where you killed another person and now it's like coming back in flashbacks? This is just insane. The final bell rang at last. I walked slowly to the office to return my paperwork. The rain had drifted away, but the wind was strong and colder. I wrapped my arms around myself. When I walked into the warm office, I almost turned around and walked back out. Edward Cullen stood at the desk in front of me. I recognized again that tousled brown hair. He didn't appear to notice the sound of my entrance. I stood pressed against the back wall, waiting for the receptionist to be free. He was arguing with her in a low, attractive voice. God. I quickly picked up the gist of the argument. He was trying to trade from 6th hour biology to another time. Any other time. Drama! I just couldn't believe this was about me. It had to be something else. Something that happened before I entered the biology room. The look on his face must have been another aggravation entirely. It was impossible that this stranger had taken such a sudden, intense dislike to me. The door opened again, and the cold wind suddenly gusted through the room, rustling the papers on the desk, swirling my hair, God, that would be weird, exorcist time, swirling my hair around my face. The girl who came in merely stepped to the desk, placed a note in the wire basket, and walked out again. But Edward Cullen's back stiffened, and he turned slowly to glare at me. His face was absurdly handsome, with piercing, hate-filled eyes. Why did we need to know that that girl walked in and placed a paper down? That clearly isn't why Edward turned around. It had nothing to do with Bella. It just made her hair move. This is complete filler. For an instant, I felt a thrill of genuine fear, raising the hair on my arms. Gross. Shave that off, woman. I mean, I'm just teasing. If you have hair on your arms, lady, man, you know, doesn't matter. If you have hair anywhere, if you want to shave it off, whatever. If you want to keep it, whatever. That was incredibly random and awkward. I apologize. The look only lasted a second, but it chilled me more than the freezing wind. He turned back to the receptionist. Never mind then, he said hastily in a voice like velvet. I've never heard sound like velvet. Mostly because velvet is a material thing. Like, I can understand, like, something... I know they're trying to say it's smooth, but you usually say, like, a voice like honey. You know, something that's, like, sweet and smooth. Not like velvet, like... It would be like a velvety tongue, you know, something that is actually material in and of itself. Let's see here. Never mind that he said blah blah blah. I can see that's impossible. Thank you so much for your help. And he turned on his heel without another look at me and disappeared out the door. I went meekly to the desk, my face white for once instead of red, and handed her the signed slip. How did your first day go, dear? The receptionist asked maternally. Very, very specific and random. Fine, I lied, my voice weak. She didn't look convinced. Really, you had told us you were a terrible liar. You don't have to constantly tell us that, you're lying or that... I mean, look, let me back up here. She said her day was fine, and she had to tell us she lied. Like, you can just say, fine, I said, and leave the viewer to actually... Or the reader, rather. The reader to actually figure out that you lied. Because guess what? All you've done this entire chapter, Bella, is complain. And, you guessed it, bitch. and whine and moan and whatever about how terrible it is. I don't think anybody would finish this chapter and go, huh, that's kind of weird. You know, Bella had a fine day. It's not like, you know,